Good morning, everyone. Today is September the 10th, 2022, and on the Hebrew calendar, which is God's calendar, it is the 14th day of Elul, 5782. Elul is the last month of the Hebrew calendar, and it's interesting that we're halfway through both months, and also we're at the end of the year on each calendar because Elul is the last month on the Hebrew calendar, and then we're only like 2.5 months away from the end of the Gregorian calendar. So this message about the hand of God, God has wanted me to put out for a few days now, and I've been putting it off because there was something else He wanted me to do, and I thought that that thing was more important. Well, it there's a song that goes along with this that God keeps putting in my mind. I keep hearing it over and over. Even in my sleep, I'm hearing it. So I got up this morning and I said, well, all right, God, I'll go ahead and get this taken care of today. He says, before this other thing that you want me to, or that I'm wanting you to do can take place, he says, I need you to put this out. I was like, okay. So here it is. And I'm going to be reading from the script that I wrote out because my memory is not the best. And I don't want to miss anything that God's told me. And also, it would sound better if I'm reading it than trying to memorize it. So let's start off with the song. This is by Robin D. Bullock. I'm not going to sing the whole song, uh, but he sang this on his 11th hour broadcast on July 20th, 2022. And it goes, and I'm going to do it the way he did it because I love the way he did it. So it goes, the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, and the teachers. The apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, and the teachers. It is the hand of God. So, and I, so on in that broadcast, he prophesied someone that would jump out of a plane, and that it has something to do with God turning the page. So remember, I said this was on July 12th, 2022. On July 29th, there was a news broadcast that stated that as a small plane was coming in for an emergency landing at Raleigh-Durham Airport, a 20-year-old passenger, they never said male or female, and he never said male or female. Isn't that interesting? Jumped out and died. Now, you think, well, what does someone jumping out of a plane have to do with God turning the page on or current events or on current events? Well, probably nothing. If you look at it in the sense of the flood in Noah's time, when he used it to wipe out the simple people and start over with only the righteous, or later, and I'm not specifying any specific leader because I mean it could be any leader now or future or whatever. Um, so a leader could be keep falling, so God is using his falling to tell him, "You have fallen away from me and are trying to take the nation from me as well. Now I am going to take your leadership away from you unless you repent." Um, However, this tragic event was probably used to tell us to look for something to happen soon. Sometimes God will use small, insignificant events to let us know that as soon as we see it, we know that such and such will happen. Now, I'm not saying that this death was insignificant, because all deaths are significant. They may not mean nothing to us personally if you don't know the person, but I mean it's significant. Somebody, you know, um, and that knows this person. It's a huge tragedy in their lives. And with God, it's a major event because um, of where they're going to spend eternity. Are they going to spend it in heaven, or are they going to spend it in hell? So, um, but when you look at how um, the the wicked political system in this world and how God is going to reverse it, you know, my dying or someone else dying. This, unless they're like a huge leader or something, um, that's it's nothing, Um, so because I mean, if I died, you know, is in other words, what I'm trying to say is, okay, if I die right now, is this nation going to fall apart because of it? Um, is um, let's see, will the president of France all of a sudden stop being the president of France? And somebody else step in and take the role for whatever reason? No. Um, but God could say, okay, whenever she dies, that's a sign because this is going to happen on the same day that this is going to happen. That's what I'm trying to say. So, um, and he could use a cloud in the shape of a heart, a baby boy born with a full set of teeth. Um, and he could say, um, like he could have my neighbor come out and say, um, in the month of uh, January uh, of this year, it will in the city of um, Canton, North Carolina, it will rain for 12 days straight. It's going to be a very hard, deep, soaking rain. However, there will be no flooding. Now, that's impossible for it to be. I mean, it can't rain here 12 days, just a normal, steady rain without there being some type of um, flooding. There may not be any, where anybody's homes get destroyed, but part of a road could get washed out or something, or get covered or something. Means that, but there will be no flood, there will be no damage at all whatsoever anywhere. Well, that's a lot of water, and uh, so whenever you see that happening, then blah 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 is going to happen. Um, so whenever we see a rain, okay, we're like, okay, day one. The next day it rains day two, and then you keep counting each day. You say, oh, this is the 12th day. It's rained 12 days in a row, and you've been watching the news, and you've been talking to everybody that you know in the area, and there's been no damage anywhere. There's been no flooding, and maybe it's even on the news that this area is always flooding, and there's not any. Wow, what's going on? Okay, well then hey, whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute. Um, so this is the same thing as like whenever he talks about the signs of the stars and stuff in Revelations that we can use. Um, so he uses like all different types of things like that. Um, so what does this have to do with the hand of God? Well, I'm fixing to get into that because it all relates. Um, and this is what God gave me, so I know it's all related. Um, so we read a lot about the hand of God in the Bible, but do we really understand what these verses mean? The hand is made up of 5 fingers, and the callings of God mentioned in Ephesians 4:11 are 5, and it's also called the fivefold ministry. The Hebrew letter Yod means hand, and it is the 10th letter of the alphabet. We have a total of 10 fingers. I looked at the meaning of the number 5, and among them I found balance, transformation of man, and divine transformation. There were many others, but these are what really stood out to me. I felt like God wanted me to use. God uses his physical hand with the 5 callings, and I couldn't think of another word to use for his actual hand other than physical, and he wouldn't give me any other word to use other than the word physical. So if you have a problem with that, you take it up with God, okay? Um, so let me go back to that. God uses his physical hand with the 5 callings to balance and transform. When you hold something, it is more sturdy if you use both hands. So I've got this cup right here, cup of coffee. All right, and I have it like this, just like that. That's it's balanced and it's sturdy, but how much more sturdy is it if I do it like this? And in fact, if I feel like I got a good grip on it, I have to do it like this. So, but if I have it like this, or even like this, I'm using both hands. Feels more sturdy and balanced. Um, and when you make something, you use both hands, right? Have you ever watched videos of somebody making pottery? They have the clay on their wheel, and I think that's what it's called. I might have the words wrong for these things, so if I do, please excuse me. Um, so they have that pottery on there. And what are they doing? They're taking both hands and they're shaping it. When if I want to fold this piece of paper up to a certain way, I would take. I don't just. I'm going to use this hand as an example of the table, okay? I don't just do it like this. Yeah. I have to use both hands to hold it and mold it and do it however I want to do it, right? I mean, you could do it with one hand, but it's going to be much more difficult. I looked up each of the 5 callings in Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, and this is what I found. An apostle is a messenger or one who is sent. A prophet is inspired man. Now, man means human, so it doesn't necessarily mean woman. So if I say man, I mean man or woman. But if I say he, that's the way I was taught, to say growing up. And I think most of us were. I might be wrong, but from my area, that's the way we usually talk. We say he. It can mean he or she. Okay, so don't get offended by me using that. Okay, a prophet uh, is an inspired man. Um, he's to speak or sing by inspiration, and Robert Book does that a lot. He just starts, God will tell him something, and he'll just bring out a song with it. Amazing. You really need to check out the 11th hour if you have not. Oh man, he can be found on YouTube and on um, the Rumble, and there might be other platforms. I'm not sure, but there's also a website, and they also have what is the name of his church? Church International is the name of the church. His wife is the pastor, and he also preaches there, and it's amazing. It is. Um, and they're located in Warrior, Alabama, and I'm hoping that one day I can get down there to go see them. So, um, I God has given me I have the money to go. I have the way to go. I have all of that, but He's not released it. It's the timing yet, so I'm waiting on that timing. Um, It's just like whenever I was trying to tell people once before that when I wasn't going to church, I was still worshiping God, and I was still loved Him and still staying close to Him. And this one girl I was working with said, "Well, you need to go to church. You need to go to church." And I said, "I'll go to church when the time is right." Well, you could die and go to hell before that happens. No, that's not what I meant. What I was meaning was I was praying and asking God, which church do you want me to go to? Because I'm not going to go to just any one. Because I want to make sure it was the one for Him that He told me. All these other churches around me might be wonderful and perfect, but God wanted me in a specific one, and until He told me which one to go, I I was going to just stay out and do my own thing, worship my own way, just His way, um, and that's why I didn't get it. I didn't get um, I guess attached to one certain one and feel um uneasy about leaving, and the uneasiness was because I didn't want to go. I did not want to leave these people. So, um, they speak or sing it by inspiration, um, in prediction, or simple discourse. An evangelist is a preacher of the gospel. Um, Also means to announce good news, especially the gospel doctrine. Um, Declare, bring, show, glad or good tidings, and preach the gospel. A pastor, to tend a flock, shepherd. A teacher, um, sorry, I'm trying to read my own writing. To flow as water, for example, to rain. To lay or throw, especially an arrow, or just, for example, to shoot. Figuratively, to point out as if by aiming the finger, to teach. Inform, direct, instruct. It also means to separate mentally or distinguish, uh, understand, inform, instruct, have intelligence, etc. That's stuff that my glasses on. All right. Now, so I was confused about the difference between an apostle and an evangelist. Um, so I looked at the meaning because they sound just identical, but there is a difference. There has to be a difference. It says it right there in Ephesians 4:11, um, because if there wasn't, um, he would not put it in there. Have them separated. Ephesians 4:11 plainly states, um, and I'm reading this from the Complete Jewish Bible. In fact, all my verses out of the Complete Jewish Bible, but they follow right along with um, the King James. Only they, um, like where it says, um, in the King James, it might say preacher, it'll say Cohen, which is a priest, and it gives more of the actual um, Hebrew meaning, Hebrew word, than what the King James would, because even in the King James it says that the italicized words are words that where they didn't know what the right translation would be, so they use another word in place of that, um, to try to make the sentence make sense. Um, so so when uh, so they italicized it so you would know that that was a word that they used. Excuse me, my nose is itching me really bad. Okay. Um, So Ephesians 4:11 says, 4:11 to 13. Furthermore, he gave some people as emissaries, some as prophets, some as proclaimers of the good news, and some as shepherds and teachers. Now, in the King James, it plainly says apostles, but instead of as emissaries. Their task is to equip God's people for the work, or serve. Their task is to equip God's people for the work of service that builds the body of the Messiah, until we all arrive at the unity implied by trusting and knowing the Son of God, at full manhood, at the standard of maturity set by the Messiah's perfection. And um, this was something that I found that helped me understand. Finally, brought to me, what is the difference? The two duties of an apostle are to be sent out as ambassadors in place of their master, Christ, continuing to do all his good works in the world while he is absent in the flesh, and to minister to and grow other disciples into maturity, how they might one day take their place. I'm like, okay, well, I still don't understand that. So then I went on and I found on Bible Study Tools, apostolic authority, having direct knowledge of the incarnate Word and being sent out as authorized agents of the gospel. The apostles provided the authentic interpretation of the life and teaching of Jesus, because their witness to Christ was guided by the Spirit. John 15:26 to 27. The apostles' teaching was considered normative for the church. They were regarded as the pillars, Galatians 2:9, and foundation, Ephesians 2:20, and Revelations 21:14, of the church, and their teaching became the norm for Christian faith and practice. The deposit of revelation transmitted by the apostles and preserved in its written form in the New Testament thus forms the basis of post-apostolic preaching and teaching in the church. It's like, okay, still don't understand the difference. Because it still seems like, the same thing. So what is the difference? There is a difference. And an apostle is higher than a prophet, which is higher than an evangelist, which is higher than a preacher, which is higher than a teacher. So this is the highest office. So if this is the apostle and this is the teacher, and they are the same thing, why are they so far apart? You know, so they're not the same. I know there's a similarity, but so they're not the same. So I'm like, okay, so what is it? I'm concerned with this. For Good for the Morning, what is the difference? And then God showed me this. And I found it on the internet. In fact, everything I found just about was on the internet, and God showed me where it was at. So a missionary is one who is sent on a mission, while evangelist is an itinerant or special preacher, especially a revivalist. So an apostle is a missionary. We tend to think of these people that in our churches that uh, we're paying to be out on the mission field as being lower than our preacher. Actually, he's lower than them in the ministry office. They're not. Nobody's better than anybody else. That's not what I'm saying. God loves everybody. He holds everybody the same. But um, but in this fivefold ministry, they're the top. They're the ones that go out into the mission, but they're the ones that uh, go into uh, go to Haiti and go to uh, Africa and go to Russia and go to they might even go to France or Italy or somebody, down in South America somewhere. They could be called to go to a cannibalistic island, teach cannibals. That'd be scary. I don't know that I would have the heart, you know, if I was telling me to go to cannibals and preach the word, um, I would have to be able to know for a fact it is definite God. I mean, like written in stone, I think that it is from God before I would say yes and go. I mean, to be honest. And I would definitely say no, I don't God, I don't want to go. I want them to know it. But I don't want to be sitting in front of them and getting eaten. Maybe one on one, maybe, but the whole time, I don't know. I mean, to be honest. Um, so, but if I knew it was definitely from him, yes, I would definitely go. Um, because he would protect me. Not to say that I wouldn't get eaten later, maybe, but I would at least get my part of the mission out before I leave. So, um, anyhow, um, so and they could be like even a mission field around here. Maybe somebody else wanting to go and do something. Um, maybe it's we have missionaries in nursing homes. Um, so it could be anywhere. But then an evangelist is like Billy Graham. Um, Billy Graham, he went around from, you don't have to be as popular as he was, um, but, celebrity type. Um, but he is, but the evangelist is someone, and you've seen him come into your church. They're just the preacher that goes, they travel from church to church. They don't have a specific church that they preach out of all the time. Um, but they would go and preach. And it may be, and you could have a pastor who might be in the calling of an evangelist, but maybe God's not ready to use him as an evangelist yet. So he will preach mostly at this church, but then God will call him to come and preach at other churches. Um, so, but but an evangelist is one who just they travel and they hold revivals sometimes, um, and then the pastor is the one who uh, teaches. Um, let me go back to what I have written down because it makes a lot more sense what I wrote. So, an apostle is a missionary. God tells him to go to a certain place to bring the news of salvation. An evangelist is a preacher who travels from church to church and sometimes holds revivals. A prophet brings warnings from God. So that's like Robin Bullock, and Joseph C. and Cat Carr is a prophet. Um, and I feel like I have been called to be a prophet. I know I have the gift of prophecy. But I have been. But the more I hear, there's a difference between the office of a prophet and a person who just has the gift of prophecy. Um, but the more I learn about the office, the more convinced I am that I need to go in front of someone who recognizes the calling to let them tell me yes I am or no I'm not. Um, and but because God tells me to do a lot of things, where I can I give warnings about things and to go places and do things. Um, so um, but the people that we know definitely are prophets. Just look at Robin Bullock and Cat Carr. Um, uh, or you could also watch on the Victory Channel. I can't think of an Lance Wallnau is a prophet. Um, I can't think of the name of the show that he's on. Um, there's several one of them that I've watched that I know are prophets, and they're on that show on the Victory Channel. Um, I can't think of the name of it, um, but if you know the name of the show I'm talking about, please put it into the comment section. Um, so um, but it comes on I think at 8 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursday nights on the Victory Channel. So you can find it there. It's 8 or 9. I'm pretty sure it's 8. Um, so um, so that's what a prophet is. People who have who are psychic, have ESP, we call ESP, and things along that nature. Uh, they are actually operating in the gift of prophecy. They can also be a prophet. I don't know, but a lot of times, and we tend to shy away from that because we're like, well, that's one of the words of witchcraft, Satanism, and all that. Well, it depends on how you're using it. If you're using that gift for God, then you're operating the prophecy, in the gift of prophecy, and you could possibly be operating in the gift of a prophet, in the office of a prophet. Um, but if you decide, well, I want to use this for evil, I want to use this for Satan, then that's when it comes into witchcraft and paganism and all that. Um, uh, a fortune teller to be considered someone who's operating the gift of prophecy. We just don't know which end. It depends on you know uh, who are they worshiping. You could actually be operating in this gift or in the office without realize. I mean, without meaning to be. Don't, you're not worshiping Satan. You love God, but you're not. You don't know um, that you're acting. You're operating in the office of a prophet or in gift of prophecy. Because this has not been revealed to you. I did that for a long time. And I would go to my pastors, and say, you know, this is what's going on. And because I thought that prophets were only back in uh, Old Testament times, and so I didn't think that there were prophets anymore. And if I'd heard anything about a prophet at this time, somebody saying that they were a prophet, I'm like, wait a minute, something's wrong with you. Um, there are no prophets anymore. Um, and there are no apostles anymore, because I was thinking that apostles were just only during the New Testament times, that they're not around anymore. Well, they are. Um, we just changed the name of the word. So, but I was saying, this is what's going on, and for lack of a better word, I'm psychic. Um, and they didn't believe me. And if they had actually, I don't know whether they just didn't believe in prophecy anymore, um, or if it was, you know, they didn't know about it, they haven't been taught correctly. I don't know what the problem is, but if they had just, said, hey, wait a minute, you know, this is a gift of prophecy, and this is how you need to do this, or wait a minute, I see you're called to be a prophet, if I am, and this is how you need to do that, this is where you operate, this is what you need to do, and and I would call out to God and beg God, please just show me what am I supposed to do with this, because it's um when I recognized that something was going on, because I'd have like deep I'd have feelings about something, a bad feeling before something happened. Um, but the major thing was the dreams, because um, and I call them visions. I've been told that they're not actually visions, but um, but where I would dream about somebody dying like a week before it happened. And it was never the person that I dreamed about, but it would happen that same way. It might happen, I mean, if I dreamed of somebody, getting shot, that don't mean that they going to get shot. It was just that they would die in a violent way. Um, or I would see, certain vehicles out on the road that are unusual to see. And I knew that somebody's going to die the next week. Well, who am I going to warn? I can't warn the person. I would know that the person that I dreamed of was not the one that's going to happen to. I knew that much. But who was it? I can't go say, hey, wait a minute, you need to be very careful, because this is what's going to happen. Um, so I didn't know what, I knew God was giving me these dreams for a reason, but these visions, what I call visions, for a reason, but I didn't know why. And so during the shutdown, um, that's when I came across Joseph C. And then from Joseph C., I went on after the shutdown to find out about um, Robin Bullock um, and these other prophets. And so I was like, wait a minute, I have the gift of prophecy. Wow, am I a prophet? Um, and so um, then I started calling, God, send me somebody to help me in this gift. And well, he, instead of sending me somebody, he never did send me anybody. But last year, I want to say it was like October or November last year. I can't remember the exact day. Uh, but it was a lot along in that time. Um, I got a text message from New Covenant Church, which I had attended a couple of times with my daughter um, and my ex-husband. I know that sounds weird, but we get along good. So, um, and it was to attend a prophetic seminar. And you know, I got, I get like text messages about there's not going to be any services today because of there's a lot of snow or this or that or the other, but nothing major like this is going to happen. No events that they're having. Um, but I got that text message, and so it was a conference. Um, so I went to the conference. The first person that I met at the conference, and so this is going out to the world. I don't know if she would want me to say her name, but she knows who she is. Um, and she was the one at the door for me to go in, and she was just so outspoken and I guess you could say wild, but in a good way, just um, our personalities matched a lot, and I was like, well, this is somebody I could really connect to, and so and she was like, hi, great to have you, and I have this prophet class. That's what I mean by wild is not mean or anything like that or simple, but just energetic. Energetic. That's what I needed to say. Energetic. And so she says, and I have this uh, prophecy class, and it meets on this night and at this time, and I would love to have you come through it. And this is the book that we're starting out of. And I might be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, that was the first class just out of that book. Um, It was my first class anyway. And it had already started, but I was still more than welcome to come. And I could think they were like about halfway through the book. Um, and uh, so, uh, so I learned, a lot there and met some people there. But I got hooked into that class. So God did not send me somebody. He sent me a whole church. This thing is going. I mean, the church actually believes and the gifts of prophecy. The church believes in this, the fivefold ministry, and they are trying to, open up all these, the how to operate in all these gifts and stuff. And so he didn't send me a person. He sent me, he sent me to a person and an entire church. So I could go into anyone in there. Um, and if I go to people, now the entire church was not in the conference. It looked almost like it, but these are people that know that they're prophets, or that they operate in their gifts of prophecy, or they think that they might, or maybe they went because they were interested. I'm not sure, but it was just amazing how many people were there. Um, so, but if I was to go up to somebody who's not, and doesn't know anything about it, they could say, "Wait a minute, I know such and such person," or "Hey, the preacher, even the preacher was in there, and the preacher operates in that," or or he or I'm not sure the preacher operates in that, but he would know who to go to. For some reason, I can't reach out to her, and there are other people in my class too that I know how to reach out to, and um, but I have all these people, you know, so it's so amazing. Um, but now to get on back to the differences, or what the people, the different offices. So a pastor is a shepherd, and we know what a shepherd does. A shepherd leads and guides. They feed, they protect, um, and they correct, they discipline. So I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So um, the pastor is a shepherd. He is to lead or guide God's children on the right path as they walk on this earth. They are also to feed us, give us the word of God in a way that we can understand it, and discipline us, tell us individually what we did was wrong and the consequences. If you do something wrong, and the preacher, if you're trying to walk right and you do something wrong, God's going to see to it that if for some reason He doesn't get you corrected through some other way, that the pastor will find out, and he'll come to you and he'll say, "Hey, Mrs. Jones or Mr. Smith, um, you are you've done this wrong. You did this. What you did was wrong." Um, and it's not that he's trying to be mean to you, um, but he's doing it because he loves you, and he wants to get you back on the right path with God. Um, and he'll also correct us. So when he tells you that, he's also saying, he'll tell you, well, now this is how you need to fix it, and how to make sure that you never do it again. Um, Teachers are to help us understand God's word and how to apply it to our daily lives. Um, I found two verses about the hand uh, that stuck out to me. One is the hand of God in 2 Chronicles 30:12. And that says, "Also in Yehuda, the hand of God was at work, uniting their hearts to do what the king and the leaders had ordered in accordance with the word of Adonai." Now, I see the fivefold ministry in here. He used each one to bring this about. So he, like how um, apostles, the missionaries that come in and say, "Okay, this is what you need to do here," and he and I think um, I don't think he did just like one and then the other and then the other and then the other. I think he had them all working together at the same time. So, and he was telling prophets, well, then you need to tell them that this is going, and the pastors, he used them each one in different ways. Um, and you can also operate a little out of one, or out of more than one, the callings. Um, so, and he could have you like, okay, I want you to operate in this office now but on down the line, I want you to operate out of that office, and it may be an office that's ahead of you, or it could be an office that's below you. So he could say, okay, I got you preaching right now, but I want you to be an apostle. I want you to be a missionary, but you're not ready for that missionary. I want to train you here, or they're not right there for me to train you. And so I'm going to. I need you to come. Go out to um, at a certain point, and then he'll tell you at that certain point, you're going to go out, or he could have you like as a prophet. You're going out and you're prophesying, and maybe you're traveling the world prophesying. Um, and then God says, "Okay, I need you to be a Sunday school teacher. It's time." Um, but this church over here in um, Omaha, Nebraska, on I don't know the street. I'm gonna make up a street on 12 Oak Street. Um, needs a Sunday school teacher, and you I want you to do that. You are perfect for that. Or they need a Sunday school teacher, but there's somebody in that church that I need you to hook up with that there's something that they need to tell you, that they need to teach you. Or maybe you need to, you need to teach them or whatever, you don't know what it is. And it doesn't mean that just because you've been demoted in a sense, um, that you've fallen, that you've failed in anything. Um, and it doesn't mean that just because you got promoted in a sense that you're now all of a sudden better than what you were before or than anybody else. It's just, God will move you around where He needs you. Um, so, and the other one is the hand of man in Genesis 3:22. Um, where did I put that verse? Oh. Adonai, God said, "See, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now, to prevent his putting out his hand and taking also from the tree of life, eating and living forever." And then it just goes on. But so I can see the fivefold ministry in there as well. Um, but from what I see in that verse is um, instead of it being those called by God, um, it is those who men or humans have decided to be in those offices. Um, and that so they could, so God calling people to do such and such. God will, humans will say, okay, well, I want this person to be an apostle, this person to be an apostle, this person to be a um, prophet, this person to be an evangelist, this person to be a pastor, this person to be a teacher, and um, so and they don't actually have those gifts, so they're trying to operate out of those gifts, and instead they wind up pulling people away into Satanism. Um, and finally, we know that Jesus operated in all five of these offices. Um, we see it in the five Gospels. No, four Gospels. um, it's um, it does not specifically say he's operating this or that or the other, but think about it. He taught. So there's the synagogues on the mountainside, from a boat, whatever. He taught. That was a teacher. Um, he went out into all the world. Well, not all the world, but all the region. He went into Gadara and to um, Nazareth, and he traveled that whole area, that Galilean area, all that. That was the apostle, the missionary. He gave warnings about what was going to happen, even at the end of the world. As a prophet, you see signs and wonders and this and that and the other. This is what's going to happen. That was a warning. That was a prophet. Um, the evangelist. He like had revivals basically. People would come wherever he's at, and he would preach to them and tell them. And they would lots of people would get saved around him and healed and all this and that. Healings happen in revivals too. So you have all of that. Um, that was the evangelist. Um, the pastor where he would preach to people. And like I said again, the teacher where he taught. So and I think the main reason why he operated all five gifts was to show us that we were called to that, and that um, if we didn't know that we were called, maybe we're not called at this point, but whenever we are called, we can look back and see how he did it, and understand more about what these different callings are. So that is the end of this video, um, and yeah, so I'm putting this out on YouTube and my Rumble channel and on my Facebook page. Um, and so if you're watching this on Rumble or YouTube, I ask that you just you know um, click like and subscribe and share it. Um, when you hit subscribe, then I'll let you know of any future videos that I do as soon as they come available. Um, if you have any comments, put them in the comment section. Even in um, the on my Facebook page. I'm sorry, my nose is itching again. Um, and also, I'm going to be putting this on my podcast, but I'm going to have to do it in a different format because the format that I like to do for videos and podcasts will only let me do a 30-minute segment. So, and I figured it would probably go longer. So, but if you're not saved, I ask that I ask that you just get saved, please. Um, and all you have to do to receive salvation is just accept God. Just believe, hey God, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior. And He came to die for my sins. And just you don't have to say any specific exact words. You just just you know uh, and you just get on your knees and say, God, I am so sorry for what I have done. I confess your sins, and if you don't know all your sins, just say all my sins. I don't know them all, because you could have done something that God doesn't even know. I mean, well, God knows, but that you didn't know. Simple. Um, and just say, just please forgive me, and then and help me not to ever do these again, and make it plain in your heart that you are not going to do those things again. Are you going to mess up in the future? Well, yeah. But all you have to do is just say, God, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and He will. And that's it. That's all there is to salvation. Um, but if you have not received salvation by the time you take that last breath, uh, you are going to go to hell. Spend eternity in hell. It's plain states that in the Bible. Um, you can receive salvation until your last breath, but once that last breath is over, it's over with. Um, but you don't know when that last breath is going to be, and you don't know because you can reach a certain point in your life. It plainly states in the Bible where um, can reach a certain point to where you will no longer think about trying to reach out to God. Your heart becomes so hardened, and um, and that's you know, and then you end up you're on a downward path to hell, and you never come back from it, and you don't know when that point's going to be. Um, you might not reach that before you take for the end of your life. Then again, you could. You don't know, so don't keep putting it off. Get saved today. Um, just and you can never be so until you reach that point. You're not so far. If you're thinking about God and you're yearning for something, as long as God's in your mind, and you're not too far gone. Um, to reach out, and you cannot do anything so bad. God will not say, "I forgive you. I love you. I forgive you. Spend eternity with me." So yeah, I just please, just um, come to Him. That is my whole purpose in these videos. That is my whole purpose in my book, which will be out any day now, called Beginnings. It was out once before, and it's coming out again. Um, and it's about where I did deep research on the book of Genesis, and I'm going to go through each book of the Bible to do deep research. Uh, and I want to reach everyone. God says in the Bible, that we preach that when it gets out, His word gets to um, every corner of the earth. That's when the end will come. That's when Jesus will return. I don't want Him to return soon. So whenever He returns, all this wickedness will be over. So, and it's to get His word out and to bring people to salvation. Uh, and if you already say, help you understand what you're reading, because it's so easy to slip away from Him if you don't understand what you're reading and you're trying. Because the best way to stay close to God, other than prayer, is to read His word and read it daily. And it's so easy to slip away if you don't do that. And if you're not understanding what you're reading, you're like, it just was from one end out the other. I know I've been there. And I've slipped many times because of that. Um, if um, I was gonna say, um, and it, and also there's people who can't read, so they're like, what's what I'm thinking? They're probably thinking, well, everybody says that the way to stay close to God is by reading His Word. God expects us to read His Word every day. Well, I can't read, so oh well, I guess I'm just gonna go to hell, and that's not the truth. Um, so with my videos and the pockets, that helps people who can't hear, or they're blind and they can't read. They're still hearing it. So I hope that this has helped you, blessed you, as it has helped and blessed me. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'm heading out soon um, to go to an outside event that God is wanting me to attend. And um, and I know it'll be lots of fruit to His kingdom. So until next time, bye.